Hi, I'm Chris from airwindows, and I'm bringing you something that is a very useful little building block. It's something that I've had around for a while, but this is the fancy VST up-to-date version with all of the latest goodies, and it is called single-ended triode. What this is a piece of software that does things that the insides of electronic circuits do. I'll demonstrate. Here is old empty pictures again. Make sure that I've got my volume levels good. We're fine. Boop. If I turn up the single-ended triode effect, it will cause one-sided saturation on a very gentle saturation curve. And it sounds kind of like this. Or more. It's all one-ended now. So the idea with this is, suppose you have something like a string section or a bass or something like that you just want to make soft and sweet and mellow. Single-ended triodes distort sort of in one direction. They'll distort one side of things more, and that brings on lots and lots of second harmonics. This is using a sine-based curve for doing the distorting. So it'll bring lots of second harmonics very cleanly without a bunch of other higher harmonics. It's a very simple sort of electronic circuit, and it does a great job. Sort of gets mushy, kind of buttery. So that's a very different tonality. We got a dry wet. And since it's applying the distortion in a pre-post gain way, it's the same algorithm regardless, but it will ramp up the gain going into the algorithm and then cut it back or not. So you can have pretty much your choice of however much of that butteriness you want to put in. If it seems exaggerated when it gets to about halfway, it's designed to be able to push it, but you might want to do just a small amount like this. Just enough to bring the lows in. It might be used for all kinds of things like basses, kick drums, who knows what. It's just always going to make stuff sound more soft and buttery because that's what the single-ended triode and the one-sided distortion bringing in second harmonics does. But that's not all that this plugin has to offer. Class AB distortion. Well, let's go to Class B distortion quickly. Class B distortion whacks the middle of the signal out. It's clipping not the extremes of the signal, it's clipping the inside of the signal so that your inside kind of goes flat and then continues again. It's a little dislocation as the waveform goes through zero, and that's what Class B distortion is. This is not considered generally desirable. You don't want this in your hi-fi amplifiers or monitoring, but people can still use it for things like, oh, I don't know, 9-inch Nails. You can get a guitar sound. Oh, here. Funny I should mention it. I have a guitar sound right here. Let us quickly, What about Golem so that I can use this guitar sound more effectively? Because that was what it was designed to do. It was designed to require Golem. And I'll bring up single into Triode again. Try moving the windows around. We'll go over to here. So that's a guitar, clearly. But if we give the same guitar that's sort of mid-rangey and abrasive, but we'll throw some Class B distortion on. Nasty. That really aggressive fizz in there, that's what the Class B distortion is doing. And that's not just that, because we've also got a section of this guitar sound that's a knockoff of a Dan Armstrong Green Ringer, so it has a horrible snarly sound, and we can make that much worse. Check this out. Pretty bad, huh? Check this out. And then if you were to, say, run that into some kind of synth filter, all kinds of crazy fun to be had. But that leaves out Class AB distortion. So let's bounce back to our little guitar section. Class AB distortion is what I'm calling the situation where it goes into Class B distortion, but it rounds the edges. It's putting a kind of distortion inside the waveform rather than in the extremes. So even if you have a very saturated sound, this is able to bring something into it. It's able to bring another level of dirt that you wouldn't otherwise have. And that sounds kind of like this. And again, try wet. So one of the things that can do is bring a real aggressiveness and impact to things, because it's kind of like the high impact plugin that I also do, where it'll start out with silence and then suddenly burst out to full volume. Like here it is on the drum sound. Here's the drum sound. Oh wait, we're still in Golem. Let's stop that. Here's the drums. Here is the AB. Interesting. So with something like that, single-ended Triode warms it up. Class B grits it up. And Class AB grunges it up. You might use that on something like a snare, or I don't know what. without it, and then you'll notice there's a bit of a noise gate quality to it as well because, like I said, the parts near the center of the waveform get sort of smushed into quietness, so it will have a strange gatey effect that can be heard very easily. Finally, one of the most interesting ways to use class AB distortion, and I don't have a good example of this, but we'll fool around with it on empty pictures and see whether that gives any kind of sense of it, is this is a great way to take a Hammond organ sound and give it that nasty roar. I think there are Hammond organs out there that have amplifiers built on class AB that are slightly out of adjustment or the bias has drifted on them, and they take on this gnarly sort of crackle and snarl to them. And I think that may be class AB distortion doing that. What you get is a breakup of continuous tones. And that one's so dense you can't actually hear what it's doing. So what about... Oh, I know. We'll try Alien Kittens and see whether its continuing synth tones are enough to do this. There's without. Or a stealth kit. And of course you can combine these and use them all at once. And this is just your tool for getting these unusual kinds of distortions that aren't found just literally everywhere. Like the single-ended triode, the curve on that is generally your distortion and saturation plugins won't have that particular curve. Class AB, even less likely to find. Class B is just nasty, so you don't want it. But if you do want it, you know who you are. And I know people who are busily modeling circuits and trying to make things sound like particular hardware pieces, often through using elaborate combinations of airwindows plugins. And well, for you folks, this is your lucky day because you just got a lot more sophisticated. I'm looking forward to hearing what you do with this little toy. All of this work is supported by Patreon, as always. So if you would like to help me do more, jump on the Patreon. And for all those who have fun playing with these things, thank you very much. You're making it all worthwhile.